Yeah.
Fantastic. I have a very loud voice, but not so loud. Yes, there we go. It's an interesting way. I don't know, maybe where to stand. Maybe the camera can follow me a little bit so I do democratically, so I'll stand with my back towards you. My name is Saskia van Stijn. I am the director of the International Architecture Biennale of Rotterdam, but here actually as a hosting partner of Archiprix. As you well know, bringing together the best of the disciplines through the different skills, the projects that we are here. And for the second edition, we have this marvelous collaboration, thank you so much, Javier, with the BK Talks. So for those of you who can't make the link, we were asked 2 years ago to possibly sort of kiss the Archiprix to a next life. Hence we did. Very proud of the fact that we made some small additions together with Verloren Bekisting. And the exhibition will actually travel to the TU Eindhoven, possibly also to other venues. This second edition will be moderated by Javier, but I thought, okay, in complexity of navigating the discipline, I will share only one insight on where I take inspiration, where we are heading. So, of course, we all know that there's a lot of insecurities out there. We have a marvelous panel. Also, thank you on my behalf for being here. And personally, I take inspiration on two things. That is, where is the EU taking its policy? And where are banks, pension funds, and investors investing in? So I'll leave that to the panel to think about futures. These are things that I'm very interested in to see. Maybe to mention this question of financialization of our discipline. But I'm not here to do the introduction. To do the introduction is the marvelous thinker, writer, and I would say captain of the ship of the BK Talks. Please give a very warm welcome for Javier Arpa Fernandez.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Saskia, for the wonderful introduction. I'm just an architect, that's, that's all. And also, I think you put us in a certain difficulty, which is talking about geopolitics in the current days. That's also something interesting. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Archiprix for bringing the exhibition again this year here. As Saskia just mentioned, with new air, let's call it like that. And it's a beautiful collaboration, and I really like the fact that we keep hosting Archiprix at the faculty every year. It will be the case on and on. So also I would like to thank Charlotte and other members of the team for the great effort they have put in putting this exhibition behind us into place. So without further ado, I want to get started. First of all, welcome everybody. Welcome all those who are here with us tonight in the Orange Tribune, Orange Hall, and all of you which are maybe watching online live or who will be watching throughout our YouTube channel. Let me get started a little bit. We're going to talk a lot about architecture. This is why we are here, Archiprix. But I would like to talk also about the planet. This is a few slides that I show to some of my students, or almost every year to my students. Mitch is a witness here, and I see some other students. I would like to start with the first look that we had at the planet as a whole in 1967. For the first time, we look back at our planet. I know that I am looking back to some of you. Please bear with me, otherwise I cannot read. Within stable conditions, different climates developed. Different climates led to different species. Over time, different species evolved, resulting in an incredibly rich Earth, full of complex systems and beauty. Planet Earth is 4.5 billion years old. 200,000 years ago only, humans first appeared. If you condense the Earth's lifespan into 24 hours, then we have been here for only 3 seconds. In these 3 seconds, we have migrated, we densified, we also formed complex systems, and with them, we started influencing the natural world. We built vast networks and started mining our planet's richness to power them. In less than 300 years, we changed global temperatures. In less than 100 years, we changed the balance of our oceans. In less than 50 years, we altered the very composition of the air we breathe. With alteration came the annihilation of entire areas. We polluted the land as well as the oceans, and with all of the above, we began to lose richness and beauty. And we could lose more. We're still warming up the planet. We're still using more and more land for agriculture. We're still using more and more energy. We're still driving up carbon emissions, producing more and more waste, and we are still demanding more and more of the Earth's water supply. We're still making more and more noise. We're still making sea levels rise. We're losing forests. We're losing species, and we're losing a lot of beauty. So 3 seconds have gone, and now for me the question, well, from that series of images in the beginning to what happens in those 3 seconds, and from now me the question is, what do we do in the 4th second that has just started? No? And this is, I think, the moment in which we all are, in which we are organizing this exhibition, and in which Archiprix comes to this place. No? This time dressed in orange, of course, because this is the atmosphere in which we are. So. This is the conversation that we were going to be starting. I wanted to start with this more of a planetary look, but I think it completely fits in the ideas that we will be discussing tonight about opening the borders of the discipline to other, of course, scales like the planetary one. We have, as you can see, I'm giving you the back sometimes, but the reason why we have set up the conversation this way is in order to be looking at the exhibition which is behind us the whole evening. It's really important. I will explain a little bit, but you're going to be listening to 3 participants, 3 nominees in the Archiprix present their work. But this happens within an exhibition that is showcasing the work of many others. And we should not forget that. So this is the reason why I happen to be moving a little bit weirdly like this. This is the exhibition that has been brought by Archiprix this year, mounted by set it up by the whole team. And these are the projects that are shown. I invite you to take a look at them. Some of you are coming here every day. Please spend some time when you're taking a coffee and walk around and browse the whole different proposals that have been shown. The proposals come from all schools of design, art, and architecture in the Netherlands. And what Archiprix has done is to try to categorize them, which is always very complicated. I am the first one that always tells students very difficult to categorize, but in order to select, in order to move forward, you need to select. So the categories in which these projects have been divided are called enchanting the everyday, softening the city, generous gestures, ecologies of repair, and constructive foraging, which are really evocative titles, I would say. They are really beautiful names, which take us to ideas like care, coexistence, repair, material responsibility, and regeneration. No? So the conversation today will be about that. How do we open our work, our discipline, to all those other realities, starting from the planetary realities I was mentioning at the beginning. I'm here only to moderate, so I will stop talking. I know I talk sometimes too much, and I'm excuse myself, cut me at some point. So this sentence, the title of Archiprix edition this year, Porosity, Borders of a Discipline, I think summarizes very well what the conversation will be about. What we will be doing today is to have 3 graduates, 3 nominees, explain their work. We have, let me get my notes. We have Thijs Boisma. Yes. Thijs Boisma is an architect and lecturer at the Amsterdam Academy of Architecture, and his graduation project, Status House, explored how architecture can host and support newcomers with a clear social and civic dimension. He will explain us more clearly, more in detail. Then we have Rachel Braun. Sorry if my pronunciation sometimes is not that good. Coming from Wageningen. She's also a landscape designer at both Slabbers, and her work combines landscape architecture, speculative design, and philosophy, especially around water, as an active presence in the landscape, rather than something to simply control. And finally, and this I can pronounce very well, Magdalena Salinas. Magdalena is an architect from Argentina and a researcher working between architecture, landscape, and material ecologies. She combines research, systemic design, and storytelling, and is also active in teaching. Your project was done at the Art Academy in The Hague. Thank you. The three of them will browse us, will take us through their projects, and we have today a panel, which is a very complete one, composed. I will start with Mitch, from here to there. Mitch Rossiter, former student of mine, by the way. Proud to see them moving forward. Mitch is an architectural designer based in Rotterdam, currently completing his master's at TU Delft. His profile combines design, housing, and reuse questions, participation, and a strong engagement in student-led collective initiatives and self-organization. He's member of the board of Archus, the master students organization at the Department of Architecture. Then I have next to him Jo Floris, architect, co-founder of Monadoc, and professor at TU Braunschweig. His work sits around questions of tradition and contemporaneity, representation, convention, and the cultural and political dimensions of architecture. Next to him, Lieke Gildu de Jong. She's a landscape architect and a founder of Landscape Collected, Archiprix winner in 2022. You will tell us about what is it like to have won an Archiprix. And Mythos of, She works on the Dutch landscape with attention to the countryside and ecosystems, while also participating in editorial and debate platform within design culture. Next to Lieke, Klaske Havek. I know her better. Klaske is professor here at TU Delft, working at the intersection of architecture, literature, and methods of analysis and imagination. She's widely known for her writing on urban literacy, editorial work, and research on how language shapes the reading and making of place. All right, now I stop here, and let's give the floor to the three nominees tonight. Thies, you are the first one. Please use the clicker. You need to try to point always that way.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Javier, for the nice introduction. I have 5 minutes, so I try to speak as quick as Javier can. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yes. Yes, this is the beginning. My name is Thies Boisma, and my project is called Statushuis. Statushuis is an alternative for housing newcomers in society. I believe the asylum applicants must have the opportunity to be full participants in society, and facilitating the right accommodation plays an essential role in this. I started the project with the assignment: how can an asylum center actually help contribute to the possibility to interact into the society, improving the well-being of the residents who live there, and also be an answer to the logistic challenges during the asylum procedure. I see the slides are a bit weirdly composed, but I started the project with diving into the data. I did research into the numbers, and I actually concluded these 4, let's say, problems right now in the asylum procedure, and that is the expensive ad hoc solutions without any vision, and the long, hopeless procedures, and no opportunities to actually interact with society, because a lot of the centers are on the outskirts of society. And the last one is the overcrowded mass accommodations. During this research, I really felt the urge to interact actually with the people who live there. I've never been in a situation like this, and I really felt that I have to engage myself with the topic and with the people who live there. So I went to the MS Galaxy, and I met, that's in the Western Harbor area of Amsterdam, and I met Tarek, Omar, Meshed and Farid, and with them I had the first interaction and a lot of talks. I interviewed them, and from there on I got in contact also with supporting organizations who I interviewed, such as COA, who is doing the accommodations, organizing the accommodations, and Vluchtelingenwerk Nederland. This was the first step for me to actually interact, and I asked the 4 residents to think together via this workshop, to think together about their current assets, where they live, what is good and not good about it, the future assets, how should it look, what kind of functions should it have, and where is it actually positioned, and where do they go in the city to actually show me where they feel safe, where they meet people, where they like to be. And this was the first step of the designing part, let's say. But after this, I also wanted to engage with other people on the asset, and I wanted to see what is the life inside an asset. So I volunteered at an asylum center, the MS Galaxy, and I worked there for 3 months as a law advisor. So it was quite hard for me, but it was really nice to actually engage myself with the people to see how their daily life is, what are their routines, where do they go, where do they struggle with, and the most important, maybe the individual stories I heard during my work there. And this really helped me, and maybe this was the most important part of my graduation, to actually go further with my graduation and start designing. This was for me the confirmation actually that I actually could do this. This was the team I worked with at the AZC as a volunteer. And from there on, I started. I wanted to design a permanent building with a temporary character, and I started first with designing the quality of life. It's really, so I made actually a program what should be integrated into the new accommodations, such as a buffer possibility. Privacy, there's not much privacy right now in the current assets. Home cooking, the choice of the units, the variety of the units. And beside that, I also searched for locations into the city of Amsterdam where the possibility is to actually make these accommodations. And that's based on information I got from the workshop. Where are the parks, where are the markets, where are the supporting organizations in the city? And from there on, I got the search areas. And I found 70 locations, what forms actually a network in the city of Amsterdam. And the architecture I use is based on these 2 elements: the box, what actually meets the modularity aspect I was looking for, and the efficiency in form and the logistic challenges. And the most important is fluctuating, or actually housing the fluctuating influx. And with this box, I saw the opportunities. The box is actually lacking in livability, and it's not specified. So I designed the annex, the one on the left, the wooden part, and these 2 elements actually works together. And in this annex, all kind of functions could be added, and that's actually then in the end connected to the box with the corner cast detail, and you can click everything together. And with this, you have a modular system, what is specified for the needs of the residents. And to end up, I picked one location, the Jan Pieter Heijenstraat in Amsterdam, to work out one building. And I designed on the ground floor the community kitchen. I also learned during my research. I went a lot to turning tables where I actually met people and entered their community, and I saw the power of this eating together, and it's also a really good connection to the neighborhood around it. And above this permanent plinth, let's say, you have the fluctuating housing units, what can breathe, grow and shrink according to the influx of the people who ask for asylum here. I want to end with this slide. The most important part for me during my graduation was one of the quotes actually Farid told me, that I don't have to design a building, but I have to think about building a community. Thank you.
Microphone on? Yep. Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. Today I will be introducing you to my project, in which I question the foundation of the Dutch water management system. So for centuries, we have been shaping the delta with a rigid and technocratic logic, a relentless drive for control and conquering the water. And this has resulted in quite the water machine we've made from the Netherlands. And as true engineers, we really believe that we have now tamed the water wolf. The water wolf is a historical reference to the ever-recurring danger of the water in the Dutch delta. So my thesis is titled Dancing with the Water Wolf, and it's an invitation to stop treating water as a resource, a problem to be managed, a threat to be neutralized, but to really start and see water from a different perspective. So today I would like to invite you to forget about the dikes, the dams, the polders, the sluices, everything you've maybe learned, and to really see water as a living being, a companion, a rhythm, a poem. So for my project, I have looked into art and poetry, philosophy and phenomenology. And based on the concept by Dilip Takuna, he introduced the concept of wetness and also the concept hyperobject by Timothy Morton. I tried to dissolve the borders between land and water. So with this wetness and hyperobject, I tried to dissolve this and to open up a new design imagination that is based on ambiguity, verticality, temporality, and coexistence. We have been taught that water is something that we can contain. A blue line on a map, for example, like a river. But when we move close, we actually see that it's very hard to draw the border between land and water. The lines kind of dissolve, and it's kind of impossible. At least for me, it was impossible. So this is where the concept of wetness comes in. And where we have water that we can contain as an object, wetness is a hyperobject, an all-consuming planetary reality that consists of rain, moist water, soils, aquifers. It is too big to fully grasp, and yet it is really real and everywhere. So this is all really nice, but how do we design with this concept that's so philosophical? So within my project, I formulated 3 principles, or shifts actually, that can help us to, instead of seeing water as an object, to move towards wetness. So we kind of change our view on water and we kind of see it like wetness. And the first one is to move from a plan view to a sectional imagination. While we commonly see rivers through maps as in plan views as lines, we all can agree that a river is not merely a line. It is, I would argue, a vertical type of wetness. And this also requires a new way of representing this river, for example, in sectional imagination or layered design. And the second one is to go from fixed boundaries to a gradient way of thinking. So instead of a binary dry and wet, we should move towards a gradient of wetness. So the ocean is very wet and the desert is wet to a lesser extent. And it is really about thinking about borders not as sharp and very strict, but more fluid and dynamic transformational zones. The third one is to go from isolated events, weather events, to cycles of wetness. So today we design in a fair weather landscape, and the rain only comes as a visitor. It comes and goes, but we should move towards an understanding of time that is not fragmented in storms or floods, but really has this ongoing cycle of wetness and continuous process of wetness that shapes the landscape. And these design principles do not really dictate a form, but they kind of invited me also to for a new relationship with water and a new design towards water. For my thesis, I did not only need to answer how to design with wetness, but also where. And I chose the river IJssel as a location for the design part of my thesis. And like I said before, rivers are often depicted as a line on a map, and I really wanted to not do this. So I tried to meet the river in a new way and to also give or try to visualize her in a new way as well. So I went to soil maps and I looked into terraforma, where they actually connect the inside of the soil with outside as well. And it's very beautiful. You should all read it as well. And I tried to go to art and poetry and to really construct a portrait of the river in a different way that we're kind of used to. And this was not only really nice to do, but it also really helped me to get a better idea of what water is, what water means, and how I am part of this system as well. After creating this portrait of the IJssel, I selected the Hoven Overmars near Zutphen as a location where I would bring wetness and the portrait of the IJssel and design together, so that I could also visualize what designing with wetness means. And the design process focuses on 4 key years. So the final end product of my thesis is not really like a design for one specific location, but it's more a series of visualizations that evolve over time. It's not a fixed solution, but a choreography between humans and wetness. That's evolving over time. So here you see the design framework. I have based my visualizations on these 4 key years. And each year has a different balance between how many people are there and how much water is in the design as well. So through speculative scenarios and sectional worlds, I try to visualize new futures that kind of celebrate wetness instead of only fighting the water. And with the design shifts in the back of my mind, I really tried to think about, okay, so how can I use this different view on water, and how can I use this as a basis for new ways of living in a fragile delta? And with this work, I also really tried to work with uncertainties and to see where that could lead me as well. And I hope to inspire new ways of living with water and also in relation to water. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. Okay. Well, I hope to do it as fast and well as my peers here, because it's a challenge to fit 5 minutes in with your research. But I will start by saying that my thesis started with the name Without It Hurts, and it is a site-specific research based in the lithium triangle. The lithium triangle is an area comprehended in between the north of Argentina, the north of Chile, and the south of Bolivia. And it is known because of having 50% of the known reservoirs of lithium of the world. What you're seeing right now on screen is the 10 main operations of lithium in Argentina right now. And I specifically focus on Salar del Rincón, which is a mining site that is supposed to be there for 40 years. By the time I started my research, it has just started. And it is planned to extract 60,000 tons of lithium per year. For my research, I did a field trip, and I went to the site. And this is a little bit of the context that I found there. On the upper part, you can see San Antonio de los Cobres, which is the mining city where the people related to the mines live and their families as well. And below you can see the animals and the landscape related to that industry. This is directly next to the lithium fields. Once we arrived to the mining site, this is what we found. And this is lithium pools. They are 30 hectares big. And it is important to highlight right now that lithium industry is thought to be, lithium is thought to be one of the key minerals for the energy transition. So it's very important right now to move forward against global warming, but at the same time it holds a very complicated contradiction, which is it needs to be extracted, and as we know, extraction always brings harsh consequences socially and also environmentally for the immediate surroundings. Having said that, here in the lithium triangle, lithium is extracted through brine, and this process works by extracting the brine from 200 meters underground. The brine is pumped to the stations and deposited into the pools. The pools are very shallow, and they enable evaporation to happen, and the remaining salt and other minerals crystallize all over the pool. And the remaining liquid passes through a series of up to 7 different pools, and the lightest part, which is lithium, is then transported into facilities within the site, stabilized, and it's able to be sold for export. The scale of the mining site is so overwhelming that not everything about this process is visible in the land. When I was there inside, this is what I couldn't see. This is the constellation of the pumping stations that are piercing the land, 200 meters deep, extracting tons of brine to the surface and pulling them into the pools. On the left, you can see Salar del Rincón, which is my case study, and the constellation of mining pumps that are in the landscape, and on the right, a close-up of one of those pumping stations. This extraction process has 2 very serious environmental concerns. The first one is the water scarcity. By extracting enormous volume of brine underground, the underground layers start to collapse, really compromising the hydric system of the region. This creates that natural oases from the desert start to dry out together with the life around them. This is affecting humans, of course, but also non-human life. The second problem is the salt. By every ton of salt extracted, there is 115 tons, by every ton of lithium extracted, there is 115 tons of salt generated as a byproduct. This salt is extracted from the pools with heavy machinery and then deposited into the landscape in piles of up to 16 meters tall. This is also compromising the area because salt levels are way beyond the natural balance and affect surroundings by the wind blowing and also infiltrating through the rains. And all of this that I'm showing, it's something that I didn't know before starting my research. And that is why I designed a proposal to directly engage with the lithium extraction system. My project is a landscape design that goes on top of the lithium pools, and it's supposed to operate together with them. It is a 20-kilometer walkway that is mimicking and communicating the constellation of pumps that are hidden in the landscape. But instead of having pumping stations, I propose to put water temples. The water temples are very simple structures made out of scaffolding and a set of 2 different meshes. The inner one, the first one, is a common technique used in the desert. It's a hydrophobic mesh that catches the humidity in the air and permits water to be collected. So the idea of this mesh is that it collects the water directly from the evaporation process of the lithium mining. And then the water is taken into the infiltration stations outside of the lithium pools, where it is directly injected into the ground. The second mesh is a hand-woven textile made by local communities. The local Aboriginal communities resent the lithium industry because of the water scarcity that they are starting to face. And it is important to say that traditional weaving for this area involves nomadic practices that let the site rest after the season of grassing, and they also take care of the animals as part of the families. These handcrafted textiles go in direct contact with the brine, and thanks to the roughness and porousness of the wool, it helps cells to crystallize over it, creating a solid testimony of what was there before and what is happening over time with this industry. The idea of this project is to create visible friction in between the stakeholders involved in this industry, the human and humans of the area, the land, the industry, and also us. The name of my project is With Salted Hills, and it aims to communicate and bring to the table how do we want to address spatially the industry and extractivism today in the era of energy transition. Thanks.
Thank you very much to the three of you for presenting also very well on time. Let's move towards the conversation. I would like to open the conversation asking those who didn't speak yet. I would like to start with Klaske. So Klaske, you just saw, let's concentrate on the three projects that we just saw. I would like to start, what is your point of view? What strikes you the most from what you just saw? And from the point of view of an educator, are we already giving them the tools that they are showing here that they have used? Are we already doing that within our faculties?
Is this working? Yes,
yeah.
It is. Thanks, Javier, and thank you for all three of you for beautiful presentations and beautiful projects. It was a very nice selection. We looked through very different scales, different questions, all of three of you have these questions that are also driven by societal concerns, right? From the extractivist practices to how do people arrive in a country, and how can we build a community for people in difficult circumstances. And I found it very beautiful to see also that, and of course the third project on water and thinking of ecosystems and how we can see the water as a character in itself, and how we can also make use of its own capacities, let's say. So I thought it was very inspiring, and it was nice to see that that all of you work across scales. I mean, you looked at the whole city of Amsterdam, but then worked really on the detail and made even a one-to-one detail, I think, was it one-to-one? Was it 1-to-5? The corner in detail.
Yeah.
And noticing that in all these cases there's it's not only we're speaking about the porosity of the discipline, right? I mean, your research was in some kind of way anthropological as well, like saying, okay, I'm going to be there for 3 months and do some participatory observation to be able to understand the topic that I'm dealing with as an architect. So I thought it was really beautiful that there's these different disciplines engaged as well. You work, Magdalena, on a very large scale, and thinking about these very complex, almost industrial operations on the land. But then you actually also work on a one-to-one scale and thinking, okay, how can I then deal with the salt and make it visible? So it's nice that you all cross different scales and work from different angles, and I think that makes the projects very rich.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Klaske. I would like to jump into the rest of the projects that we have started watching, which you can see on the screen. These are all the nominees that you can see in the exhibition. It's important to remember that this is a selection of 3 nominees, but there are many others in the exhibition that I invite again to go visit. You have been today, if I understood correctly, very busy with discussions. Job is part of the jury, so he's together with many others. And you have been reviewing all the production. So we saw 3 examples in detail now. Do you think that the questions that these 3 projects are raising are also common in the rest of the exhibition? In the rest of the nominees, of course.
I would say the engagement, yes, but everybody chooses its own angle. But indeed, there are more. There are absolutely more of these connections being made. So I think it is very visible that this generation really embraces urgencies in society. That's something we can very clearly see in the whole lineup of nominees. And I think that is something, for me, relatively new. Of course, this happened before, but now it seems to be one of the tools that is embraced by everyone, and I think that's very good. And I'm also very happy to see that. Yeah.
So I'm doing a little bit of an age, but I don't know your ages, but I think I'm not wrong. Because you were an Archiprix winner in 2022, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. That's 4 years ago, which may be a lot of time or not so much time, depends how you see it, but there was a pandemic when you were studying, maybe, yeah. I don't know. So I would like, after what you saw today, has there been a progress? Is there a difference between the projects of that year, of that period when you studied, versus or towards porosity, compared to what you are seeing today in 2026?
Thank you for your presentations, by the way. Really amazing. I think, indeed, 4 years ago there was the Archiprix, but we graduated also. Hello? I feel like it was already started, like the themes that you are picking up maybe even more intensively is something, it already started there. And I think there was already a moment that we felt like the transition is really occurring. And what I see in your project, for example, all of you three, is really also questioning the values of the set values. Like, can we really stand behind, I don't know if it's the proper English, behind the decisions that have been made. So I think all of you are questioning this. And I think this is also what was already started, maybe. I saw there was a few projects who already did that in my year. But I think it's now inevitably, like in every project, it's hidden there. Everybody's questioning.
Sorry for
and researching, and yeah, that is like we saw today in the jury, that is like a big part of the proposals are research. Like, I think the biggest part is research.
More than project itself. More than
just the design. Yeah, the design really follows after the research. So the research is almost you really feel the emotion almost within this research. So it's like very thorough, and I think you are all very engaged with what you've made, and that this is what you really can experience in the projects.
Mm-hmm. What somehow transpired from what you're saying is that the world keeps accelerating, no? That urgencies are become more urgent somehow, no? If 4 years ago things were kind of more different in 4 years only than what they are now.
Yeah. And
how students are impacted by that, probably.
Yeah, it's like really a step further. So maybe in my year then, 4 years ago, it was more about addressing ecology, and now it's really about what is ecology exactly, like who is affected by it and how does it work through it. Like it's far more detailed, and it's like less like the container words, but really looking for the meaning behind. Hello. How is it affected?
Yeah, maybe we should throw that away and then keep working with another one. Mitch has a microphone, so I can ask you now. We are seeing these projects that were finished last year in June. You will be graduating in June as well. And you are actually the only one from TU Delft here hosting today. You are seeing topics and concerns, degrees of engagement, certain ideas of speed that we just spoke about, and you are graduating now. You are doing your graduation now. How do you feel you are close to these concerns, to this speed, or do you think that the curriculum didn't catch up yet with what these projects and all the projects in the exhibition announce?
Thank you for your presentations, they're amazing. Very inspiring for me to see what, the level you can get to in the amount of time that we have. And I feel that the main question I'm thinking of today is who the audience is in these projects, which I think was like one of the initial prompts at the start, whether it's at the policy level or more locally. And I feel as if the strength in these projects is that the audience is not too internal. It's not just that you're speaking to other designers and people who are very much on board already and you're preaching to the choir, for want of a less religious analogy, and you're kind of reaching beyond, whether it was the indigenous groups in Argentina or whether it was the asylum seekers or whether it was the people that you met on your project as well. I just think that often we speak too much to ourselves, and I think a lot of campaigns have tried to kind of reach beyond to the people who have the power and the money, often still speaking in very architectural ways. I think the strength in these is that you're trying to speak beyond. And maybe that's why this whole question is important. The topic that you put today of, the porous borders of the discipline, why does it need to be porous? I think it's because of those things. Because we don't have that much power sometimes. It's just designers. I don't know what you guys think of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. We speak of these very societal, ecological urgencies, but of course the key question behind all the projects is what is the agency of architecture and what can we do as designers and how can we translate these questions that are huge? I mean, you were speaking of the whole planet. How can they come down to a corner detail of one dwelling unit of an asylum home? So I think that's always a very difficult but also very inspiring challenge that all the students are facing in these projects. Like, of course, we want to make a better world, and there's very big questions that we want to tackle, but how to bring it down to a question that we can address as architects. And I think that's where also the research that Lika was referring to comes in, because the transition from that big question or the big site or the big area that you're investigating to formulate an assignment, I think that's part of our task as architects, to bring it down from that large scale to the actual design question. And I've seen many of the projects here in the exhibition that are actually going to a material detail level, even if the questions are quite large. So I thought it was quite nice to see.
Which makes me think that indeed the discipline becomes more porous. I think there's no doubt about it. It's already the premise of the conversation. No? The discipline becomes more porous towards other stakeholders, other kinds of work. I really enjoyed the moment you talked about poetry as well. No? And we're talking about indigenous peoples and other kind of agents that are involved in the fabrication of the city. Mitch mentions audiences to whom is it that we're talking. And then the fact that you bring this back to construction details, if I may say.
Exactly, yeah.
Just what is then, if we are making the discipline more porous, education more porous therefore, what is it that is, in a way, non-negotiable? If you see what I mean. So, because in the end...
Yeah, exactly, because if the borders of the discipline become porous and we take in many other disciplines. You were speaking about poetry, you were speaking about anthropology. There's a lot going on, but then, of course, it's architecture proper in the end that we're discussing. And I think that is very nice in all of your projects, that the actual tangible spatial qualities are also, that's the essence of the project. So I think that's something that would be non-negotiable. I mean, in the end, we do arrive at architecture, or at least some spatial material quality, whether it's a building or something else.
Non-negotiable?
Yeah, I don't know. I have the idea that time is changing, right? So you showed a wonderful introduction about how climate and our environment is evolving over time. And I see jobs or, tasks or the positions that we have within our jobs also needs to evolve with the time. So if we're talking about the fourth second, then I can imagine that our environment is changing and therefore we have to change. So I think maybe partly it's true what you're saying, but maybe that's not the full story, because I have the idea that within the architecture field, and my profession is landscape architects, which is slightly different. But what I like to do, for example, is to work with other landscape architects, because they have different qualities that I don't possess, because I didn't specialize in certain crafts that is necessary to do the job. And then I might have other skills that I can collaborate with them on one assignment. So I think it's interesting about this porosity that we have maybe new tasks within our profession that is necessary to fulfill the full field.
So the next question would be, once we know that, I'm going back to, we admit porosity and that the discipline is changing, how much does education need to change? And do you have suggestions for changes of the curriculum? We see the projects changing very quickly, no? From 2022, when you participated in Archiprix, to 2026, when we see this, there's a change. But did education actually catch up with those changes? Should it change? Would you suggest any changes?
Yeah, I can react.
Please.
I have the feeling that it's also part of, as a student, you should also have the courage to bring in new things into the curriculum, maybe. Even though your assignment might be this box, have the courage to also go beyond. And as for the curriculum, I'm not really sure how that everything works by setting up a curriculum, but I think also part of a solution maybe could be the way that we have to deliver assignments. So the format, is it always a text document, or is it maybe something else? And I've seen with a course that they give in the format that I took myself, when there was complete freedom in how I delivered my final product, I also saw that I and fellow students, we were much more creative in actually the story that we're going to tell. So we also kind of naturally grabbed into other disciplines, and maybe the end product is also the result of, it's what's much more rich in the end, actually. So I think maybe that's something also to consider.
Magdalena?
I also think that having freedom, it is very important, mostly in thesis and graduation projects, to be able to choose and to choose your own battle. What is the problem that you're addressing? And I come from a different background, also more traditional, and then I went to arts, and in Arts Academy I could find that freedom, and that freedom led me to not only choose my topic, but also express to these different audiences that you were talking about. And when you said that, it really resonated with me, because while I was writing my book, I was thinking, I really want people to empathize with this. I really want them to read it with joy, although I'm talking about a very sad topic. So, I think the freedom in that sense, the freedom of how to write, maybe not following necessarily the common words that are supposed to be in the imaginary of architectural, like very smart texts. I think that freedom, for me at least, was very necessary to my project. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would like to add also something on this. At the university I studied, I remembered in the first year I got teach in dancing to explore your space. What is space, and how and where does space ends or starts? And I think these courses of a dancer, of a biologist, of philosophers sometimes during your study really open up our let's say profession. And I believe we are all schooled in visualizing, and we can design and we can visualize really good. But I think it's really important that we are sometimes also put our fingers in the water of other disciplines to feel a bit about that and explore yourself later on if you're interested or not. So I think it's really important to open up actually the school for other professions during the education. And for me it helped me also to step away from the desk and just go into the field and go to the asylum center and start a conversation. And that sometimes you just have to do it and have to go. And with other professions, I think it's really interesting if they interact actually with the universities.
Mitch?
Yeah, I feel a bit conflicted because I feel like I'm very pro things that aren't typically architecture being considered architecture, like writing. And I think that especially I did my history thesis on this with looking at London policy documents and seeing how the language changed over time. And yeah, I'm a big believer and I agree, but I also think sometimes in some cases maybe advice should be more to narrow what architecture is and make it a bit more strict and a bit more kind of honed, because I think there's a danger sometimes that maybe it becomes a bit too blurry or a bit too ambiguous what architecture is. And I really like the idea of non-negotiables, because when we graduate and we leave, there are general arrangement drawings to make and details, and these are quite serious things that are linked to risk and insurance and money. And I don't know, I think there's a way to have both, but it shouldn't just be one and not the other, I guess.
Yeah. So this is really interesting because you go back to the non-negotiable, which actually keeps in my mind tonight, no? Because we said it's porous, we open up, and you said strict. What do you mean by strict? Can you give us examples? Be more precise.
I think I've done it myself where you can talk around architecture by using the porosity as almost like an excuse to not answer really important questions, such as...
Please do.
Such as, I mean, how does the structure work? And I think sometimes there's a way in which, this intradisciplinary ambition can lead to that question being asked a bit less. And I think that's an important question among all the others.
Yeah. Which makes me think also, when we're picking on interdisciplinarity and what you just mentioned, I think interdisciplinary, well, I'm not going to say what I think. Sorry, I'm the moderator here, but I would like to ask you, how about authorship? In your projects, you are bringing a lot of knowledge coming from outside. No, this is how we understood your projects, the ideas of collaboration. And then, regarding authorship, do you question authorship? Is it yours, or is it no longer yours? Because if it wasn't thanks to the fact that you have met so many stakeholders, listened to so many stories, your projects wouldn't be there. And this is something that I realize more and more in the Faculty of Architecture, is that still the students claim their own, this is my project, this is my name, I did it. And I have to, as an educator, I have to struggle with individual versus collective work. So how do you see authorship? This is just an open question to everybody. So I'm looking at the students, but I would like to also the non-students to respond. In your practice also, no? When you're collaborating, how do you deal with authorship?
For me personally, I had this feeling as well, like how much of this is actually my own. But for me, it was really about connecting the dots. So, of course, yes, I am the person who takes and collects all the information, but the project doesn't exist if no one puts it together in a certain way. So that is what I was thinking, like, okay, but I'm the person who connected the dots. Of course, the dots existed, but it needs to happen as well.
I totally agree with you, and I feel kind of relieved that the three projects had this in common, because it feels that I'm not alone in that way of thinking. And maybe it's a bold statement, but anyway, let's try. I really think that for me, architecture is a discipline that can deeply understand complex systems and articulate them. And within that, whether if it's a mining site, a collective of people, or a detail, or a structural detail, within that, I really think that we are articulators within these really complex systems. And in that saying, also, authorship gets kind of lost. But I think, and this is my opinion, that it is very needed to step aside of the ego of the architecture right now, in this moment.
Yeah, I can add to that, because I agree with you in this. Because what I see in my practice is that I'm always looking for not authorship, but ownership. And it's not, I shouldn't be the owner of the project, but the people who are dealing with the project should be the owner. So I'm always trying to deliver the project to somebody else, that somebody else gets the project or feels the owner of the project. And that is especially in landscape architecture, because it has a lot to deal with time. So you need to be, as a community where you design for, and it can be like a whole region or like a small landscape or whatever scale, that people need to somehow adapt the design. And I think how you explained this with the different dots that you try to collect is super important, because you have to collect, sometimes you as a designer are maybe the glue in between like all the knowledge that is already there. So it's like sometimes you're a little bit like a generalist, but then the non-negotiables kicks in. Like you also need to have the capacity to bring it to something that is, maybe valuable by architecture, like it really the design, or what you see here as well. Like everything has also spatial quality, and that is a skill. Also.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have a bit of feeling that the ego connected, like you just mentioned it, the ego connected to the authorship is indeed something that feels very old school nowadays. But I do think that authorship is still relevant, because you're selecting, you're designing, deciding, I mean, actually. And by means of selecting and deciding, you're actually the author. And sometimes this takes place in a very dynamic setting in which you negotiate with others indeed. But I think in the end, that is also where your specific skill steps in. And for me, that's also non-negotiable, because I think it's a very specific skill to be able to do spatial synthesis and to also understand the process of realization. I also believe that requires a lot of practice before you can really manage doing such a thing. So, to my opinion, to be open to a lot of things around you is absolutely necessary, but the answer should be architectural or spatial, and that is what you're trained in.
Yeah, Two things about authorship. Authorship is also taking responsibility for the project, right? Like you connect a lot of things, but also as stating you're an author, it's also taking that responsibility. You were asking about education and the curriculum, if we're actually doing the right thing or if we're on track. There's two things I would like to say, and maybe I know there's colleagues also here from The Hague, from Arnhem, from Amsterdam, so I'm speaking for Delft at the moment, but it would be nice to hear from them as well. I think this porosity of the discipline and teaching on the one hand what is the core of architecture or landscape architecture or urbanism, and on the other hand, bringing in knowledge and inspiration from other disciplines. I think that's happening quite a lot already, at least in our curriculum, but you said also in Amsterdam, and we see that coming in. But the question of authorship and the idea that an architectural design is seldom the work of one person, I think there we see here 30-something projects that all have one single author. And I don't know how it's in the other schools, but here in Delft, an exam is an individual exam. And we have hardly any students who graduate in a team. And that's, of course, a question. If we all say that architecture is a collective practice, where we have different disciplines on board, and an architect and an urban planner and a manager, or 3 architects work together, how come it's not possible in our educational system that students would graduate in a team? So that's maybe more than the different disciplines, is something that I feel we're behind as educators.
Yeah. I was about to agree, but I can't agree. But I let Joe go.
No, I disagree, because I think it is the last time you can individually show what your position is, and after that you will start working in practice, for example, or develop your own practice. And you're constantly in negotiation and working together. And I think this is an important point to really highlight and formulate your own position.
True, it's also about taking an individual position. Yeah. But we've had cases where students in a studio found a complementarity in their work. And could actually continue on a certain strategy or a certain research project that they were developing, in contributing both in different ways to a project, and still, keeping their own signature or their own part of the project. But it's a bit strange that that's not allowed or hardly possible.
At the same time,
I agree. Of course, it's also a moment that you can think of where am I as an architect and what is my responsibility.
But if we are praising projects that work collectively and then we don't educate students to work collectively, they won't be prepared.
Well, I'm not sure, because before your graduation you're constantly collaborating as well, or not? In working in groups.
They're signing individually.
Yeah, that's true. We actually have courses or studios that there are multiple students working on one project. And to react on this as well, I'm actually quite glad that for once I didn't have to work in a group.
Exactly.
And it's also an illusion that you make it's an illusion to think that the project behind is just the work of one person, because I really believe that conscious or unconsciously, many people work on one project.
There's Mitch here.
I think I also agree that it's a really invaluable opportunity just for the people that I know in second year to do something that is your own, like your baby. And I think in the masters, at least in architecture, there is a decent chunk of group work in the electives and in the smaller projects that you do along the way. And I think the opportunity to just kind of run with something that's your own is really great. And I also think that it's not something you do on your own, even if it's your own project. I mean, if you go to the second floor on the kind of other side of the building, on any day, there's students who are asking each other questions and doing their own tutorials with one another, completely unprompted by, tutors or anything, just because they're interested in each other's projects and they support each other. So even if you're doing your own project, you're not on your own.
Thies and then Lieke.
Yeah, I want to actually add to that I don't have the feeling I did it on my own the whole project. I am the author or the director, I would maybe say, to organize everything and to choose who I'm actually want to talk with or interact with. So I think during the whole university experience, there are a lot of moments that you actually work together with other students, with other professions, and in the end, you direct it yourself. And after the studies, you work together with other architects sometimes. But I really feel like during my whole study, I worked a lot together with other people. And there's one moment in the end where you can take care of your baby, as you say, or direct your own baby more, let's say. And I think I think that's nice that there is the opportunity in the end to do this.
Yeah, you almost said it all. I think I wanted to also address, like, if you look at your projects, how you described them just now, you all collected a group of people around you who were informing you about a lot of things, right? Like a lot of information. And basically, you could say they are also part of the design group. Like maybe they weren't designers, but they're part of the team to create like the input that you needed. But I don't know how about you, but when I was graduating, I felt like I have to run an office all by myself by creating, like, to produce everything you wanted to make. And usually you do this in a, like, all the designs are almost like office designs that we see here behind us. So it's a lot of work put in there. And well, that also requires a lot of work. That it would be nice to have like an office, right, to do the to work at graduation.
Changing a little bit the topic before I open the conversation to the audience. You mentioned earlier that when visiting the projects today, there was a lot of research in comparison to design, if I understood correctly. Why do you think is that? Is there any kind of sense of paralysis, or do you have any other kind of like I don't know, this is overwhelming, I prefer to stay here, comfortable in the research with what I have discovered, I prefer not to propose, proposing is not what I want. When you have seen these projects today, what came to your mind, just as prompts?
Do you want to start or should I? I think what we see in the research is that people, like the former students, all graduated of course, are not necessarily reflecting on architecture, but trying to get a grip on what's happening around them. And therefore you need to really research what is going on. So they also pick topics or locations that you really have to dive into to get on a certain level of knowledge to be able to build with that as an architect or landscape architect, urbanism, interior designer. So I have the impression that it's really about collecting information and almost this library of tools that you could possibly apply into your design, and to have like a full and honest understanding of what needs to be done or what you can reflect on. So gathering, and understanding.
Go.
Yes. It's an intriguing question. I also find it difficult to really answer it because perhaps it has to do with being a student and being young and not yet having a sort of self to be so confident that you can immediately start with something without having a theoretical framework that you set up. And once you've set it up, I could also imagine that the next time after graduation you still have this valuable framework that helps you to ignite earlier doing designs or designing as part of also questioning your own theoretical framework. And that's something I sometimes saw in some projects where it's more mixed, but in general there's quite a hard cut between writing a book and then designing a project. And of course there are interactions, but that it is sort of fluidly melting into each other is not something I've seen very often. I think it's also difficult, so I understand why.
I was just wondering if there's maybe some kind of shift in mentality. It's not, we are no longer, students are no longer, this generation of students is no longer so solution driven, maybe.
That's possible.
And then it's more questions than trying to always give an answer, give a solution. I have this is it, this is what you have to do. I don't know, but maybe what I want to do now is to open the conversation with this question to those that are watching here. Who would like to ask a question? Make a comment or a reflection, Saskia? Thanks.
Sorry, just giving everybody the opportunity to maybe think a little bit. Thank you for the insightful comments. And I was thinking about your question of the discipline that we see. I was envisioning the shape of an hourglass, and not because of your temporality, evoking the question of the planetary and how we could respond through the different scales. But we see indeed people honing in and branching out at the same time, and often maybe even the same person at the same time. So then I was thinking, what has changed? That there are really like a kaleidoscopic amount of topics that are being picked up and looked at, and maybe more the relationality than the object. So the process is become more dominant than the result, funny enough. But returning to my question is actually maybe, you asked this question of audience and display, and I was thinking about this quite grim peers I have around me that see the discipline decimated to a form follows function kind of, let's say, just the facade, right? We've become the I don't want to get all dystopic, but I'm trying to sort of search how, as a cultural ambassador, let's say, that how we can take responsibility, that the richness of the ideas of these young people can manifest even in the practice or in the cultural landscape. This is something I'm searching for a little bit, how we can cross-contaminate. So this, when we return to the porosity, it's like, how do you see our responsibility of a bit of an older generation to bring these ideas to a podium or a context that they can actually thrive and infiltrate and cross-contaminate. I don't know who wants to pick up on the question, but how do we keep these ideas alive and not let them be flattened by the financial reality of things? That's my question. Sorry, very long-winded.
Sam Klaska.
Yeah, Saskia, thanks for this, because it's of course there's a role for Archiprix as well, and it is yeah, I think in the past few years, and also through your involvement, Saskia, with IABR, but also with the larger Archiprix board. So we have representatives from each of the schools in the Archiprix board. We've been thinking like how this agency and the
your mic is a little bit flaky, and then
this one better.
Thank you.
So how the strength of you as a young generation bringing themes to the fore, and how that can land in society. And Archiprix for a long time was a nice celebration between the schools, which is of course important that we see what happens in the different architecture schools. But in the last few years, we've been trying to reach out also to more societal partners. We have had at the Archiprix prize ceremony, we have had people from municipalities or from other, let's say, from the field, who saw how relevant those projects were, and also the thinking power, the design thinking that you offer as a generation, how we can bring that also outside the schools. And of course, Archiprix is not the only platform, but this is a platform where we, with those 30-something projects, we can actually show like, hey, this is what architectural thinking can offer to the problems of society. So I hope we can even make further steps in bringing the results of Archiprix somewhere where it can land.
Thank you, Klaske. Any questions from the tribune, the floor? This one there?
Hi, thanks to everybody for all the presentations of your 3 projects, really beautiful, and for the whole panel. I think some of these questions that you were discussing, especially I think on authorship or on the individual versus the group project or so, perhaps they depend on what we think that the higher spatial design education should do. Perhaps I ask myself, and I also ask you, is it education a space where we are learning skills and then demonstrating these skills, or is it a place where we are learning to critically think of today's practice that is also quite under lots of pressures, market pressure, or whatever? Yes, I leave that there.
Who wants to pick up on that?
Well, I just like you studied at the Academy of Architecture in Amsterdam, and I think this is exactly what I experienced the academy to be like in the work hours at the office. You really had to face the reality of the job, while during the night shifts at school you could you could really develop your vision on things and your own position. And I think this mix was super important. But it's hardcore though. I see Madeleine in the audience. I don't know, how about you?
Yeah, no, definitely. It was during the day in the office 4 days a week was training skills, I would say. And in the evening it was more, I would say, buitenspelen, explore. It was like a big play garden and explore what you can. And also as Lieke said, position yourself and find your own way in the profession. And it also helps with other disciplines who are interacting with the university to explore the borders of architecture. And during the day it was hardcore architecture, but in the evenings it was more free on the study, let's say.
Yeah, because it's kind of nice to have like a reference, right? Like you kind of need a reference, like how has it, like the profession has been executed maybe in the past. Then you also have something to say, okay, I'm not agree with this, or I want to change this. So the limitations also provides freedom, or that you see where the freedom is. So I think it's kind of important to have both, and the strictness and the freedom.
I think it's important to note for those students that don't know the system in Amsterdam, because some of our international students in Delft don't know exactly, but their experience, or the experience in the academy in Amsterdam, is that the students are working at the same time they are also studying. And this is how they divide their days and their realities. That's for those who don't know the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that sense, the structure at the universities in Eindhoven and Delft is a bit different.
Very different.
But still, there is indeed a balance between, on the one hand, the skills that you need to learn, and on the other hand, a university environment, but also the master environment at the academy is also precisely the environment where you need to ask critical questions and learn this critical and creative thinking. So it's not only about the skills, but it's also about how am I positioning myself? What is my opinion against all the questions that are around there in and outside the discipline.
Any questions? It's hard to see the audience with the lights. Does anybody else have a question? There's somebody there. Mark is running. Thank you, Mark.
Hi. Yeah, something I'm kind of wondering is, this is something that I'm kind of struggling with myself, like in how much do I myself consider myself an architect? Because, I don't know, we are talking about so many different varieties here. You have like urbanism, it's just a whole different area sometimes. And building technology is also like, it's completely different than the old school die-hard architecture that it was. And I feel like there's a need of a switch, not necessarily for everything, but for everyone. But like right now, we have so many new technologies coming out that we also need to do more research on what the architect is going to be in the future, right? AI or what our job is going to be in the future.
Speaking of future, what do you see? What do you see yourself in front of that? Magdalena.
Okay. I don't know if, I mean, not that I don't know. I really don't know like how to answer to that question. But at least, and I think this is maybe my young and hopeful position right now, that I have also stated before, that for me, an architect is the one behind understanding and articulating complex problems and complex matters and issues and systems. And within and related to that, it doesn't matter. I mean, a technology in that sense, it will be another tool for us to work with, but shouldn't replace us in a way, because we are the ones, and maybe that's where the authorship would be placed. But yeah, I don't know if that's because I'm hopeful, because I just graduated, or if it's something that will stay with me for the rest of the career, I hope.
No, but that's also why I think it's kind of logical that there's now more research-driven projects, because we are just more exploring on what we're going to be or something.
Yeah, I also think that the research-driven projects are related to some degree of guilt related to the technology as well. I mean, we're a generation that grew up, neither of us draw in paper, for deliveries. So we grew up with the technology and we are seeing consequences of that. So I think the research, in a way, is a sort of avoidance of just start drawing and start designing, but at the same time, it's an avoidance that's coming with a degree of guilt of seeing things not go the way we would hope for. Yeah.
Okay, on that note, Magdalena, we are going to end the session today here. I want to invite everybody for some drinks and snacks that are waiting for there. I have prepared some text, but I won't read it because because I think it's been already quite dense, and also because there's a couple of things you just mentioned, which is the idea of hope. No, and I think that no matter how you practice architecture, I think there are many, many ways of practicing architecture. This is me giving the last words, no? But Saskia at the very beginning, she said, here is Javier, he's a curator, he's a writer, and my answer was, no, I'm an architect. I consider myself only an architect, and architecture gives you, this education gives you the possibility of doing many things as well as building, of course. Alongside building, and as well as building, you will be able to do many other things. And I consider those also architecture. And I think the fact of designing hope, and I think that ending with the idea of hope is extremely important, besides my catastrophic 4-second message at the very beginning, because of course you need to create some tension within the audience, which is something that I work on. Building audiences is architecture as well, and building hope and communicating the emergency at the same time is also architecture. So I would try to think that there's no only one answer to what an architect is. I think you just let it open, be porous. Yes? So with that said, I just want to invite you to join us next week again. We have another BK Talks. It's called What the River Says. And Zach Gottschall, he's a filmmaker from Louisiana, who is right in the United States of America. He's now spending some time here with us at TU Delft. He will be delivering or showing us his work on water. It's been, actually, it's within your team, Klaske. So there's also an exhibition in the Black Room. We have spoken today about Archiprix in the Orange Hall, but the Black Room there, that sometimes nobody sees, includes his work. There are 3 pieces by him, 3 films, very beautiful films, that have to do about their stories of resilience in front of water. Probably you will be very interested in that. It's how do you deal with it, how do you live with it, and how your life actually changes when the water keeps rising, in this case, nearby New Orleans. So join us next week, go visit the Black Room, and let's have a drink. Thank you very much. Good night.